NBA player-led podcasts are taking over the internet, and occasionally we do get some hot takes from them. The latest comes from Patrick Beverley, who, when asked if Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can win a ring together, answered, quote, "No, they don't complement each other enough." Zach, we've seen this team. We've grown with this team, and we've had a lot of heartbreak with this Boston Celtics team. Do Jaylen and Jason complement each other enough?
No, I'd have to agree with him, honestly. I think that they are pretty similar players in what they offer, on both sides of the ball. I disagree with his take that they'll never win a ring, but I do agree with him that they're not complementary to each other enough. They're really not.
So, with the Celtics making the decision to make Jaylen the highest paid player in the league, how do you think that affects them moving forward?
I mean, it's definitely going to have to make them a lot more savvy with the draft, I guess. They picked up JD Davidson. It looks like that they're going to get a similar Marcus Smart type replacement on the defensive side of the ball. So I mean, with that, they're looking for those cheap, high quality like players in the second round of the draft that they can really coach up, because they have their 2, 3, and 4 filled for the next, I would say, probably 4 to 5 years. So they
Kyle,
really
what
need to.
about you? Are you buying what Patrick Beverley is selling?
Well, so like ignoring the Patrick Beverley hates the Celtics aspect of this, like that's the first part of this. From the Jaylen and Jason standpoint, like they do complement each other in the sense that they are both 25 point per game scorers. And I am struggling to think of any team other than the Phoenix Suns at this point who have two 25 point a game scorers in the NBA. Maybe you could say Anthony Davis with the Lakers, but there's very few teams that have two 25 point a game scorers. And so regardless of position, their ability to score like that at a super efficient level is very unique in the sport. Now, they are good enough to win a championship together. We know this because they were 2 games away from winning the championship together as the 2 best players on their team. That qualifies for me as good enough to win a championship as the 2 best players on a team. Now, granted, in 2022, the thing that helped put them over the edge was having the greatest defense in the NBA in the last 20 years from January 1st until the end of the season. So like, yes, when you put those 2 players around an incredible defense built around them, that was the important complement. And this last year, they were the number 1 efficiency offense in the league, despite the fact that they were basically the exact same team as the year before. I mean, obviously they got Malcolm Brogdon, but Malcolm Brogdon wasn't a massive needle mover when it came to regular season performance and then ultimately the playoffs for the Boston Celtics. So they had the number 1 offense there. And I'm just really interested to see what they do now that they're reshaping the roster here, because I mean, Zach, you know this, with trading for Kristaps Porzingis and moving on from Marcus Smart, like it's not trading Jaylen and Jason, obviously, but it's like a shakeup of what we know the roster to be around those 2 for the Celtics.
For sure, yeah, and I kind of did like a player by player analysis on Marcus Smart, Derek White, who is eventually, going to be his replacement on the court. And I mean, just last season, Derek White was an all around better player, offensively, defensively. The only categories Marcus Smart really held over Derek White last year were assists per game and steals. That's it. Everything else really had the needle pointed in Derek White's lane. And I think the biggest thing for this Marcus Smart shakeup is that they are getting a very loud voice out of that locker room. This is now Jaylen and Jason's team. They have the ultimate say. Marcus Smart was the longest tenured Celtic. They had to respect his voice, and whether or not they were getting along behind the scenes or whatnot, this is Jason and Jaylen's team now. That's my biggest takeaway from the Marcus Smart trade, is that a major shift in the locker room.
And to give Pat Bev a little credit here, he did say that with the Kristaps trade, he thinks the Celtics will be a lot better. Zach, how do you think Kristaps kind of like fits into this team?
I think that he is going to be a huge asset, especially with 3 points in their 3-point percentage. He's a very accurate 3-point shooter for a big. He averaged 23, I think it was like 23.2 points per game last season, which was a career best, but he's been averaging right around 20 points a game for his entire career, sans his first season where he had like 14 or 15 a game. So, they're adding that scoring right off the top, and they're not really replacing anyone in that aspect. You're moving Jaylen Brown up to that 2 spot, and he's going to get a lot better matchups as a shooting guard than he would have as a small forward or a power forward. So I'm expecting, obviously with the points coming in, but also that shift of JT and JB moving up slots in that order, it's going to open up a lot of avenues for them.
The only thing I worry about with Kristaps coming in is the kind of glass cannon element of him coming to the offense, where I know the defense is going to take somewhat of a step back, and I hope that they could kind of reclaim some of that identity that they had a couple years ago that led them to winning the East and going on to the NBA Finals, because we know that team was driven by their defense, and that's what was the thing that was lacking, that defensive intensity. Yeah, they were still a top defense in the league when you look at the aggregate, but anyone watching that team last year did not feel that same sense of urgency on that side of the ball. And it showed. It showed particularly against Miami when you just have Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin and these guys just tossing it up and it just going in every which way. It was a frustrating watch. And I mentioned this one to Kyle before. When it comes to them facing the Miami Heat, it's like their basketball IQ just takes an instant dip. Like, I don't know what this team does, but they just play dumber when they play the Miami Heat. It's mind-boggling, truly. And it's obviously mind-boggling to the players because how they started 0-3 in that Eastern Conference Final series is still one of the things that's going to haunt me. Yeah, game 6, Derek White was amazing. I don't care. We shouldn't have been in that spot.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, as much as I did love Derek White game 6, electric factory, and having that chance to win game 7, Jason Tatum gets hurt within the first 2 minutes of the game, and there you go. There's your game. That's it. It could be a completely different if Jason Tatum doesn't get hurt, but neither team was scoring a single basket for the first 15 minutes of that game. It was extremely low scoring. Everything was blocked up, but yeah, that will haunt me too. Julian, I'm with you.
How do you think this East is going to look? Because with Miami, they're still in Dame Lillard limbo at the moment. Giannis, the Bucks, we know they're going to be good, but even that team, like after, of course, losing to Miami themselves, their chemistry was kind of like shaken a little bit. And then Philadelphia with the James Harden conundrum as well. Like the East still feels very open for the Celtics to take advantage of. How do you like their chances against this version of the Eastern Conference?
I think that this is the best chance that they have had to win the conference in a little bit. I mean, obviously, 2 years ago, they were only one game off of the Bucks, had to go to Milwaukee, did beat them in game 7, but I think Milwaukee is definitely going to take that step back. The Heat are still going to be right up there. I doubt that the 76ers are relevant come playoff time, just with everything that's been going on. It's a franchise that's about to implode. But, I would say, other teams that are up and coming, now that all that drama is out of Brooklyn doesn't look too bad. The Knicks look good. Not that they are going to be able to contend with the big three in the East and Milwaukee and Miami and Boston. But yeah, I think Boston's got the best chance this season to win the conference, and hopefully they rebound and get to the finals.
See, I kind of go the other way in the fact that, and I've talked to Juju about this before, the Celtics' best chance to win the East and ultimately win a championship has probably passed them by. And I think that's because that 2022 team was on such a roll when they were going into the playoffs. And they ended up beating the Bucks, who obviously didn't have Chris Middleton in that playoff series. But when they got past the Bucks and then they got past the Heat, even though that series probably shouldn't have gone 7 games, but it went 7 and they beat them in the conference finals. I thought that was their chance to win a championship. And then to Juju about this from last year, like, it's hard to get better than number 1. The Celtics were the best regular season team in the NBA last year. They were the number 2 offense in the NBA, only behind the Sacramento Kings, like the beam, only behind Sacramento in offense, and they were top 5 in defense. So it's hard to be better than number 1, which is what the Celtics were last year. And so they're changing up the roster a good bit. You mentioned Miami and Milwaukee. I think Cleveland is going to be the team that's potentially the 4th team in the Eastern Conference this year. Just all the nerds pointing to them making a leap. Now that they've had playoff experience with the young guys, there's potential for them to maybe win a series and then get a battle against Boston or Miami. But maybe you could say they're the best team in the Eastern Conference, and I would definitely be willing to hear you out on that. Like you said, Damian Lillard limbo is going on in Miami right now. Miami doesn't have Max Strus or Gabe Vincent anymore, and they kind of haven't replaced those guys while they wait to see what happens with Lillard. I know they drafted Jaime Jaquez, and they're hoping that Nikola Jovic ends up playing some more this season, but they didn't really do anything to replace Gabe Vincent or Max Strus, so they're kind of in waiting. The Bucks are running it back with the same team that got bounced out of the playoffs by Miami last year. So yeah, I could understand Boston being the best team in the Eastern Conference, but I think their best chance to win the conference was probably either 2 years ago or you could maybe even argue last year when they got matched up against Miami in the conference finals. And as we saw, probably the better team is Miami, right? I know they lost the series, but like games 4 through 6 kind of proved, hey, Miami was kind of an 8 seed and Boston kind of let them hang around a bit too long. And then Miami took it from them at the end. So I think their best chance to win the East has passed them by, but that doesn't mean they can't win it this year. They're still really good.
I also throw out 2020. I think that they should have done well in the bubble.
Toronto should have won that second round series. That's all I'll say.
That damn Bam Adebayo block still haunts my dreams. Ugh. Hey guys, we want to give a big shout out to Zach Burrell for joining us on this episode. Zach's one of the outstanding hosts of the Boda Sports Podcast. Those guys do a great job of covering the NFL and fantasy football. Give them a listen and find links to their stuff in our YouTube description below. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our stuff as well. From Juju, stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we'll see you on the next one.